Alright, that was 800 grit. See, I got a nice frosting over top the lens, which is what you're looking for. I may have to go back to 800. You don't really know until after you compound the lens to see what the clarity looks like. This one doesn't have too much UV damage, but sometimes they have these darker spots on lenses that are more exposed to the sun. And you'll see a clear line where the factory UV coating has been worn off the lens. Now with some lenses, I can blend that out and I don't have to take the entire coating off. But other lenses, I have to take the entire coating off, and that takes quite a while. But this is what I was talking about. These are the Meguiar's Unigrit disc, and I just went 800. Now this is 1500 right here, and you can see it's a strange little sanding disc. And I actually looked for these the other day, and I guess Meguiar's no longer sells them. This is the 1000 grit, which should be more coarse than this. But I get a lot more cut out of the 1500 for some reason. So I usually skip this 1000 grit, which this is also one of those thick disc. And I don't know why they have a thick 1000 disc and a thin 1500 disc. It doesn't really make sense to me. But these are also much more expensive than what these used to be when they were sold. But once I run out of these discs, I'll probably go to 3M at that point. Went super light pressure on that one, which is another technique that goes back to paint polishing. On the final polish, you always lighten up your pressure. Alright, there's my 1500 down. Now, after the 1500, this is where I'll usually go with the hand sanding. And for the hand sanding, I like to have a little bucket of water. Seems to make it a little easier for me. And I got this little cheapy wet dry block, 3M block from Amazon. And I think I actually got this paper from an auto parts store. I've had it for a long time. It's not Unigrit. Unigrit's always a little more expensive. But this stuff works just fine for acrylic. And this water, it's just got a little bit of Dawn dish soap in it for a nice lubricant. Now I have a little trick when I hand sand, because the lines that the machine leaves, you'll see very clearly, they have like these little pigtails in them. So when I hand sand two different levels. This is 2000 grit and the other one's 3000 grit. And what I'll do is I'll end either going up and down or side to side, and then when I go to the other sandpaper, I go the opposite direction, and then I can read the lines and see if I got them all out. Makes it a lot easier than guesswork after you compound to find out which grit you went a little too hard on. So let me go ahead and start up and down here. Not real heavy pressure, nice and light. I'm getting pretty good cut. I can see the acrylic coming off. I keep saying acrylic, it may not even be acrylic. Let's say plastic. A little bit more water on there. Ooh, soapy. So soapy. Now see, I just heard that. There's something gritty in between the two. And that's the advantage of the paper, is that if you start getting something inside there, you can hear it and you can feel it. That noise, by the way, is the washing machine. I've had a few comments in other videos about the strange noises in the background. Let's see what we got here. Now, I'm not sure if you could see where the lines are going vertical now, and that's what you want to see. That way you know you've gotten out all the machine polishing, which would be very uniform circles. Hopefully that's picking up. Let me try with my flashlight here. You can see the vertical lines up and down. And what I'm looking for is any type of pigtails, any circular sanding marks. I really don't see any. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my 3000 grit. Which I got this on Amazon too. This is the 3M Trizact. I don't know what that means, but this is pretty nice sandpaper. I don't know how long it's going to last. I've done a few pairs with it already, and it's that foamy look to it. And you wouldn't even think this would cut anything, but you'll see it come right off. It does cut. And when I'm using this, I'm going to go horizontal, and then I can see my lines. Plus it's going across the grain, so it's got to cut a little bit better, you would think. Looks like my tape wants to come off now. It's just a little wet and getting a little beat up. I'll have to go up and down over here. Keep that tape from messing up. A little bit coming off of there. Hit it again. Definitely hear it doing its job. That's all I ask of my sandpaper. Do your job. See what we got here. I went horizontal this time, so all my sanding lines are hopefully horizontal, except for the ones over here, which may be vertical, so I didn't want to mess my tape up too bad. And yeah, it seems to be what I got going on is horizontal sanding lines. And honestly, it doesn't have to be this perfect, because this spar stuff that we're using, a lot of people don't even polish this out. They're going to go ahead and apply it to this and have great results because it fills in 3000 grit. I've heard some people say it fills in up to 1500 grit really well to where it's crystal clear. I haven't tried that. I always like to compound it and polish it up first. That way I know what I'm looking at. 'Cause right now, all this mess, all this noise going on, it's hiding anything that any type of damage that might be in the lens. Like I was telling you before, that feather line, that line of clear coat, this one didn't have it, and I wish it did. But if I don't feather that out perfectly, at this point you'll still see the line, but when I go to polish it, you won't see the line. And that'll tell me if it's ready for the coating or not. But the flip side of that, a lot of people think that if it's not roughed up like this, the coating doesn't hold as well as it does to, say you have a smooth surface it's not going to grip that as well as it will this rough surface like this, which I've never had a problem with the coating holding myself. I guarantee this up to a year. It's going to last longer with proper maintenance to it. This over here I always guarantee up to 6 months. But yeah, let me go ahead and polish this out, and we'll see exactly what I'm looking at. Alright, I'm back. I've now switched over to the pneumatic polisher. You can see it's not a dual action, just goes one direction. Just a word on that. Obviously when I'm mobile, I can't use these pneumatic tools. I prefer these tools, but you can use a drill to do all this stuff, or you could even use the big polisher, depending on what you have. I know a lot of people use a dual action polisher. My dual action polisher is probably too big for it. I have the Cyclo, and I have a force action down there, which is the Flex. I've never tried to use that on headlights before, but I have used my rotary, I have used my drill. The sanding I don't really like to do with the drill. I know some people do. I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable doing it. I'll usually just do all the sanding by hand if I'm mobile and have to do it that way. Doing the same way between sandpapers, I'll just switch direction, up or down, side to side. But let me go ahead and polish this up. I'm going to start out with the Meguiar's 105 Ultra Cut Compound on a, I believe this is a Lake Country 3-inch wool pad. Which this little pad's nice. It fits onto this machine perfect because it has this raised lip, but I cannot use this on my rotary, unfortunately, because my rotary pad's is the same size. It's 3 inches, and because of the weird lip on it, it won't fit on there. Which I have some other pads that I use too. This is actually a pad for a Cyclo, which is a weird, it's not really wool. I'm not even sure what you'd call this, but I've used this to polish out headlights before, and since it has a flat backing, I can use that on my rotary. Now this is why I like the compound, because I'm not sure if this is picking up or not, but I can see the pigtails, which the spar would probably fill that in, but me being the kind of guy I am that everything has to be just right, I'm going to hit this again with hand sanding and try to get more of these pigtails out just to get a smoother surface. You can definitely see the pigtails in there. And of course, you know how well you want to get them, because like I said, the spar really will cover up a lot of damage. The problem is if it's not looking pretty good underneath the spar, once the spar starts to fail, which it will, I don't care what you put on here. A lot of people have different opinions on what to protect the headlight with. Whatever you put on here, it's going to fail. The UV factory coating failed. It's constantly bombarded by the elements in the front of your vehicle, constantly bombarded by the sunlight. So whatever you put on there, you can't guarantee for a lifetime. I don't care what anybody says. A year's a pretty good amount of time to have it done, especially when some headlights you're looking at upwards of $400 to replace. Some of these headlights on the BMWs, the higher end cars, super expensive. I doubt this Ford headlight was that much, but most people would be very happy to spend $60 to have an unsightly, unsafe headlight restored to clarity. And like I said, with a little bit of maintenance, you can make it last much, much longer. And I'm not sure if I made my point earlier. The reason I try to get it as perfect as possible is when the spar starts to fail, it's going to stay clear longer if it looks perfect, because they may not notice the spar failing itself, but if the surface underneath of it is not looking correctly and that spar does fail, they'll see that. They'll see it right away, and that's not, you know, that's not good. It's ugly underneath, and all of a sudden the protective coating's failing on it, and they see that. We want to give this another polish. We'll see what it looks like. You may have saw me spray this. This is just alcohol. Try to get all the polish off of it to see what the bare surface looks like. Which it looks like I got the pigtails out. But I have more vertical marks than anything, which is good. That's the sandpaper. That's the 3000 grit that I stopped on. It's a little disappointing they all didn't come out. Doesn't look bad. All headlights are different. I guess it's just like paint. They're all a little harder to polish out than others. But in the interest of time, I am going to go on at this point. I'm not going to go 205. Well, should I? Yeah, why not? I'll go ahead and hit it with the 205. It might help refine it a little bit. I don't think it'll look crystal clear until I put the spar on. Like I said, a lot of people stop with the sandpaper, and they have great results. And you know, that's a preference that some people have, and they feel like it holds better. Maybe it does. I'm not sure. I have not had a catastrophic failure that I could attribute to this at all, but you know, everybody's got their own theories. I'm trying to determine if these marks here are on the inside or the outside. They look like they're on the inside. Yeah, pretty much. Yep, I can actually see the difference there. That's unfortunate. I was hoping, these being my examples, they would be crystal clear. But we do have damage on the inside. And you would not believe what they cost for a headlight from the junkyard. I was shocked. The guy charged me as much as he did for this thing. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and mix up some spar, and I'll start there. Alright, I'm back. Now I'm not going to mix up a batch because I already have some and it takes very little to do this to begin with. But what I would normally do is use a tablespoon 1 tablespoon of that, 1 tablespoon of this, put it together, and you don't want to shake it. You may stir it to mix it, but if you shake it, you're going to cause bubbles in here, and you don't want bubbles in there. Now you want to start out by wiping your headlight surface with mineral spirits. This helps it adhere better to a clean surface. And I'll keep this in case I mess up, which is a good thing about this setup is if you mess up applying it while it's still a little moist, because it usually takes a good 20 minutes to set up, 24 hours probably for a real hard cure on there. But if you mess it up, just take your mineral spirits, wipe it off, start over. And the great stuff about the solution is that it tends to self-level. But in order for it to do that, you have to put it on thick enough to where it will level itself out, but not so thick as to where it runs. So this is a little bit of a learning curve. It's not real difficult. I think it took me a couple times before I got it to the way I liked it the first time I used it. And like I said, if you mess up, it's real easy to start over and try it again. Now you want to get your rag pretty damp on both sides, just like so, and then you just run it across as such. You see I got some bubbles going that don't look like they want to clear out. Now you only get so long to play with it before it wants to start setting up, and then you're just going to streak it. So you have to keep that in mind. You see it's got lines in it right now. I usually give it a minute or two to see if it's going to settle out. It looks like it is. A couple bubbles, that happens. There's not a whole lot you can do to avoid the occasional bubble, as long as it's just not completely glossed over with bubbles. Another thing I really love about this stuff is it puts a good shine on there. Let's see, I don't like that right there. There's a streak, which I bet you I cannot, well, I can still play with it. Let me play with it. The more mineral spirits you put in here, the longer you'll get to play with it. But it's going to take longer to cure, it's going to take longer to set up, and you get runs at that point. Looks pretty good. Now right now, if I'm not happy with this, I would take my mineral spirits rag and just wipe it off and start over. But it seems to be setting up pretty good. Very minor bubbling. I hate that you can see the damage inside the lens, but there's really nothing you can do about that. And that's something you have to let your customers know about. If it's damaged inside, it's not going to clean up. That's probably why, more likely, my customer would want to stop there. Just because it's not going to get a whole, I mean, it's clear. You can definitely see, and the shine is great. But, I mean, are they going to be happy with this as opposed to this? Or do they want to go all the way to this level? And that's up to them. I mean, this looks great. You can see a noticeable difference between this and that, and a huge difference to that. It looks like it's setting up really good. Like I said, I mean, this went on almost perfect this time. It doesn't always happen that way, and if you feel like you have to wipe it off again, it's not that big a deal. It comes right off. I almost wish that this did mess up, so I could have showed you that, but it just looks too good. I don't want to take it off. So this would be my example headlight that I'm going to have in the garage whenever somebody wants to know about headlight restoration. This is a light that I'm going to pull out, and I'm going to say this is what we started with. This I can do for 20. This I can do for 60. 6-month warranty. 1-year warranty. And I think that visual representation would be great. Now, a little word about these rags. These are flammable now, so you have to keep that in mind. I like to put them into a plastic bag before I throw them away and get all the oxygen out of it. That way there's no chance of a spontaneous combustion. Just squeeze it all out and seal it up. Keep that in mind before you get rid of these. And I'll come back for a final shot with the tape off and we'll see what the lines look like. But pretty happy with this.